Hi, I'm Jacob Cybulski. Welcome to R, Data Analytics and Data Visualization. When you installed R, usually you would like to have some front end for R. I'm using RStudio, which is what you see. The way you would normally install it is that first you install R, then you install RStudio, you start up RStudio, and it will launch R. So you can see when RStudio started here, it started R version 3.2.3 Wooden Christmas Tree, which is the current version. Now, the way you work with it is that you organize a folder on your computer with the program sources and with data. I'm going to do it by first opening one of those sources, which I have already prepared. And I'm going to tell R where is my folder. So I set working directory, I give a path, and I'm going to send this command from my source. This is the editor of the R sources to the console. This is where R is executing its commands. And I do that by pressing Control Enter. I could have simply typed it all in, so the next command I'm going to type in get working directory, and now R knows where my data is and where my sources are in relationship to this particular directory. I can actually look at my folder by going to my working directory. So this is the structure of the working directory. It has a data folder. I have a number of CSV files with which I'm going to work in the subsequent videos. M1, my module 1, Introduction to R, and I'm going to do installation basics, basic data analysis, and so on, and many others. So now, whenever I start writing any programs, I'm going to set working directory as one of the first lines, and R will figure out where to get the data from. Okay, so the basic things are, here it is, the window. We have the editor, the console for interaction with R, where you can see the folders. We can also see the whole lot of packages currently installed in the user library and in the system library. And of course, I can ask for help. One of these functions will be C. It's a combine values into a vector or list, and I'm going to execute in a second. In R, simple commands are like this. Variable A takes the value of 10. Okay, we can see the value is a global environment of all variables and the values shown here. The value 10 has been assigned to variable A. Quite simple. We could do more complex assignments, like B takes the vector of values 2, 3, and 4. And that vector is shown here, and I could access individual vector values by referring to the index. B index 2, B index 3, B index 4, not applicable. Okay, interestingly, in R, whether the variable is a single value or a collection of values, it's still a vector. So what is the length of vector A? It's 1. The length of vector B is 3. The length of the vector combining the values of A and B is 4. And if you want to check what exactly is combination of A and B, it's 10, 2, 3, and 4. Whatever we typed in can be found in a history. This is the history of all commands that are executed or RStudio executed up to now. That includes setting up the system, setting libraries, working directories, and the commands that typed in. And you could access the history by pressing the arrow up and arrow down, and we could execute the same command. In fact, we could change it. Value 6. Okay, so you can go up and down in the console window. Quite convenient. Let's do something more complex. We could use R functions, such as function sequence. X takes the value from 3, a sequence of values from 3 to 22, 20 numbers. Again, I've done it by pressing Control Enter, and that command where the cursor was at was sent to R. Now what's X? This is a series of numbers. We can plot them. The plot appears in the plot window. It's quite uninteresting because it's basically a plot of vector indices versus the values in X. Or let's do something more elaborate. Let's take a sample of 20 values from X. What is it? Basically 20 numbers from X in random order. What exactly sample is doing? We could quickly check it. So I'm asking R, what is sample? And in help window, it tells me it takes a sample of the specified size from the elements of X. And as you can see by default, the sample is with replacement. So that means each time I get the number, it's not being replaced. That means the number will not be available for the next drawing from the sample. If you wanted to modify that, if I'm typing sample, I don't know what exactly is the command. I could look in help, or I could press Control Space and get access to continuation. So with replacement false or replacement true. That means if I do the sample again, oops, y, the value of y, you can see some numbers will be repeating. 18 and 18 has been repeated. Now we could do a more fancy plot. Here we have two values 18 in succession. We plot values of X versus value of Y's, several points connected by lines. And we use type B in color red. What exactly is B? Let's look at help. Let's look at plot function. We could produce several types of plots. The B means draw points and lines. And there's more functions, such as let's generate a normal distribution of 10,000 numbers, happen very quickly, with a mean of 2.5 and standard deviation of 0.1. We could look at all numbers quickly, use a dump of all numbers listed, or we could show it in a histogram, or plot a density of that area. So we have done a lot of things. We looked at the window of RStudio with R window in the console, sources being edited in the editor. We can look at the history, the environment of all the variables and the values, the browser of your files, different plots, the packages, and of course help. So thank you. We'll move to more complex things in the next lesson.